Right. Welcome to episode 7 of the Shake, Rattle and Roll podcast. I'm Richard Shaw. Very fortunate today to have one of the Welsh sporting greats with us, as I like to call him. Former world title challenger, former WBU champion, now one of the most highly regarded coaches on the European boxing and world boxing scene. The one and only Garry Lockett. How are we doing, Gary? Okay, buddy?
I'm very well. That's high praise indeed you give me there, Rich.
I thought we started a positive before you start shouting at me.
Yeah.
Right. First of all, let's talk about this madness going on. How are you coping with the lockdown at the moment?
Training, just doing what I do best. I think, obviously when you're a coach, I think you're busy a lot of the time and you try to get in the training when you can. But I've been exercising most days with my boy. He's 13. He's nearly
I've seen you on the social media with the lad who putting him through his paces, but.
Well, you know him anyway, Rich, because he comes to all Jack's fights. He's in the dressing room with us. And, the first time he came, I think he was right down to my abs and my chest. Now he's as tall as me. So time flies by. But no, he's doing really well. He's like a whippet with the 5Ks and the 6Ks. So I'm putting him through some weights and different things now. So he's doing really good, and it's good to have active children, isn't it? And my daughter's the same.
What's his what's his likes and dislikes sports wise? What does he take part in normally? Is he into his boxing or has he got a different path?
No, to be honest, we took a different path. I don't think Jack's really. He loves boxing and he follows boxing, and he comes to all the fights and stuff like that. But I wouldn't really want him to box, if I'm honest. I think my heart would be in my mouth if he did. Yeah. But he plays for Cardiff Lawn Tennis Club. He plays for Pontyclun Rugby and Pontyclun Football. And, he's interested in all sports. So that's all I've always hoped, that my children would be sporty, and they both are,
I had this conversation with Chris Fields the other day, and we were both saying about the importance of kids being active. And it doesn't matter the sport. It's, as long as they find something they love and enjoy. But he said a lot of the great sports people that he's been in and around, they never actually had a focal sport until they were 15, 16, 17. They tried all sports. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's important. I tried out. I pushed out Jack to play football, rugby, boxing. And then they find that one particular sport that they want to get invested in, don't they? And I don't think
find that one sport will call them, won't it? And I think for me it was a choice between rugby and box. I was going to say football then, never in a million years. Rugby and boxing. And I played quite high level rugby, sort of under 14s, under 15s, and then boxing. I chose boxing in the end, and I suppose it turned out to be the right choice.
So, let's go back to your boxing career then. What age did you start boxing at, Gar?
So I started boxing with the Calzaghe Club in Cwmbran, with Chris Manley. God rest his soul. He died maybe about a year ago now. So God rest his soul. But no, I started with Chris Manley when I was about 8. First fight at 10. And it was. I can remember. I walk in gyms, some gyms now, I walk in certain places, and when you have that smell and it takes you back to that time.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I can't remember where I was literally about a month ago or just before the lockdown. And I walked in something and it immediately took me back to the Calzaghe gym in Cwmbran. And that smell, that used glove smell, the bag smell, the gym smell, amazing. But so 8 years of age and first fight at 10. So, a lot of years ago.
Why boxing? Was that something that your parents encouraged you to do, or just something you fancy doing?
I think my dad encouraged me to do it. And obviously with the Rocky movies, we all loved the Rocky movies, didn't we? And I think my dad encouraged me, and I wasn't very good straight away, but then obviously you stick at it, don't you? And you dig in with the pain, you stick at it, and then you try to get something out of it. Then.
What was your dad a boxer, or just wanted to keep you occupied?
I wouldn't say he was a boxer. He did plenty on the street, and he had a big interest in boxing when he was a kid. I think he used to train in the same gym in Newport with old names like Billy May and guys like that. And he was always interested in. I think he had a couple of fights as about a 15-year-old, but he was more of a an interested observer, and so he encouraged me, and he's a good coach, my dad. He was a good man to have behind me, and then after, obviously, I went on to leave Calzaghe and go to Pontypool, and he stayed at Calzaghe as a coach. And I always said, he's very, very good to put with the learners. He's very good coach, teaching them the basics and teaching them the discipline.
Is your dad still alive now? Is he still doing a bit of the coaching?
Yeah, he's coming up 70 now. He stopped doing the coaching about 3 years ago, and just work. Still doing a little bit of work, and slowly getting old, but less miserable. To be honest, he's cheering up over time.
Well, hopefully genetically there's hope for you then, but you have a bit of a reputation being a bit of a misog now and then, but
I don't know why.
I don't know why, because I've had some great times, when I've been away with you, and what it is, I think, when people speak to you, you cut from the same cloth. You can be very direct and very black and white on things, there's no bullshit with you, to be honest, and sometimes people take that as, because I've had it, he's a miserable git, but it's not. It's just, I think we're just honest people when we voicing our opinions on things.
I just think I'm like, my dad's very old school, and I think part of that is rubbed off on me, and I think it's always very, very important to be respectful of people, no matter who they are, whether they're a cleaner or whether they're a boxing champion or an MMA champion or a Premiership footballer. I try to treat everybody the same, and just to be straight with people. And if you're straight with people, they know exactly where they are.
Yeah.
And I just, that's the way I am. That's the way I've always liked to carry myself.
I'll take that every day, mate. I'll take that every day. So let's go back to that. What type of kid was Garry Lockett growing up? Where did you were Cumbraen boy all your life, Gar?
Cumbraen boy until 2006. We moved down to Pontyclean then, because I married a Mumbles girl, and we sort of moved halfway in between. We moved to Pontyclean, and Nia, my wife, she had some relations around this area, so we thought we'd move this area halfway in between Cumbraen and Swansea, and try and be in the middle of the grandparents to our children, if you know what I mean.
What was you like as a kid, Gar? Were you somebody getting into scrapes? Were you a good lad? Were you a bit of a tearaway?
I was a good lad, I think. I was more like my mother. My father was quite. He grew up, with 6 or 7 brothers and sisters, single parent family. My nan having to work 3 jobs to keep them all. Never really had a lot. Whereas my mother was brought up, just one brother and a little bit more well off, if you know what I mean. So yeah. I think I took my mother's characteristics. So to be honest, if I wasn't really a natural fighter, I think that had to be sort of trained into me.
Yeah.
I don't suppose I still am. My first, if someone was to sort of start trying to cause trouble, I think my first instinct would be to try and talk my way out of it. But obviously there comes a situation, not for a long, long time. Sometimes you get yourself into scrapes where there is no talking. But thankfully, I haven't had that for a long, long time now. But no, never really a fighter as a kid. Pretty good boy, to be honest.
Yeah. So when you joined that boxing gym at 8, was it something that, as you said, you found it a bit difficult, you had to work hard, but was it something you found enjoyable? Something you thought, this is a place I want to be? Or was it, and it is as kids, sometimes it's a bit more of a chore than an enjoyable situation.
Yeah, but to be honest, completely honest with you, a massive chore for me to go every time. And, I think my dad encouraged me. I wouldn't really say pushed me really hard. He did push me at times, but then as I grew up, I think it was strong encouragement rather than pushing. And a lot of the time, unless I went to the gym, I wouldn't have my pocket money, so I had to go.
Do you remember that first fight at 10 years of age and where it was?
Yeah. I can't remember where it was, but I can remember I boxed a guy called Paul Davis. We were both 10. He was from Penrith, and I stopped him in the first round, 13 seconds. So pretty good start.
How did that feel? That first fight, and that first win?
Well, it felt great because I can remember, I think I was supposed to have my first fight on 2 occasions before that, but I think things fell through, and you know what it's like in the amateurs. Fighters can pull out, and for no reason, or bills can fall through or what have you. But third time lucky, and I stopped him in the first round in 13 seconds. So that's a name and an occasion I can always remember.
Brilliant. So your two amateur clubs, I'm guessing, was Coed to start off. Yeah. Why the move to Pontypool?
Well, at the time, Tony Williams, great amateur coach, massive reputation.
I've met Tony. When Jack was boxing. Yeah, we went to Sweden for like a Welsh select thing that Jack got picked, and I met him out there, proper old school. Good guy. I got to be honest, got on like house on fire with him. Yeah,
he's straight. And he doesn't really smile a lot. That's what people say about me, but Tony's exactly the same. And, Tony, I think Tony brought the best out of me. I had 11 fights with Coed. I won 6. I lost 5 of my first 11. But then I went on to have about another, I can't remember, it was about 60 or 70 with Tony, and I only lost 3.
Yeah. Any titles in that time?
Just a few. So I won 5 Welsh schoolboy titles. I won the British schools. Then I won 3 NABC titles Welsh, and then I won one of the very few to win 3 British NABC titles, Class A, Class B, Class C. I won the Welsh Youth twice, Gaelic Games gold medals twice. I won the 4 Nations Daily Star Golden Gloves twice, gold medals in that. I won the Welsh under-19, I think, twice. And I won European Youth gold medal in Italy. So a few titles.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a few.
But, now, talking about what you just said there, so you probably 70 plus amateur fights. Yeah. Right from a very young age, right through until you turn pro. And I think that sets. That's one thing that I want to see more in MMA. That you don't see. You have too many guys. They're rushing to turn professional, and what I will say, I think the climate has changed quite a bit over the last few years with the shows like Cage Warriors are giving the amateurs a chance to shine under the lights and build that record up. But, back in the early days when I was first involved in MMA, they probably do 1 or 2 amateur fights and they straight in think they can fight pro. It was very unprofessional in the early days, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing like it is today. But the one thing I encourage my amateurs now is to get as many MMA bouts, as many grappling matches in. If they can get a kickboxing bout, get it in. Because for me, and you probably found that it was a smooth transition when you become professional.
Yeah, it's all experience, isn't it? I mean, I turned pro young as well. So I turned,
how old was you when you turned pro?
I was 18 going on 19 when I turned pro. Obviously 19 when I had my first fight. So, but I'd had I think it was 78. Yeah, 78, 170. So I was seasoned, but not seasoned as a senior, because I think I only had 2 senior fights. But I had a lot of experience. I had natural power, so I was always going to be a step ahead turning pro than people who couldn't punch, because yourself, if you've got that natural power,
knockout power,
it's half the battle. So. I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to things like that. Being a coach and a manager, I have phone calls off people all the time wanting to turn pro, and I'll be quite honest and not being arrogant at all. I turn a lot more people away than I take on, because you can't take everybody. And I think probably 2/3 of the people that approach you, they're just not ready to turn pro. They haven't really got their amateur credentials. They haven't really made their bones, so to speak, in the amateurs. So I'd like to see these amateurs having 50, 60, 70 fights. I can remember a guy called Ducky Reese, who's 2 years older than me. He was British schoolboy champion. And I think I was 30 and he was 15. And we was at a show. He said, I'm having my 61st fight tonight. And he was only 15, just turned 15. Yeah. And then by the time he turned pro, I think he had 7 fights as a pro, then packed it in, and he was unbeaten as well. By the time he turned pro, I think he'd had about 150 fights. And that's, unless I hear the foreign amateurs, these days having all them fights, but that seems to be a thing of the past now with, 100, 150, 200 fights.
you can't buy experience, can you either? And I think, you know, for example, as a professional, whether it's in MMA or whether it's in boxing, when you're on that TV, they don't go, there's Garry Lockett, he was 32-2, I believe, when he was as a pro, yeah? But they don't talk about your amateur record. Same as, you know, if we use out Jack, they don't go, there's Jack Shaw, he was 12-0 as an amateur. No, nobody cares about the amateur record, to be honest, once you become... I say this to everybody, it's not about having a pristine amateur record. I take fights sometimes for the amateurs, and I get a bit of criticism where they're going, oh, it's a little bit too much too soon. I go, it doesn't matter. It's a good learning curve for them. It's a good experience for them. If they got aspirations of becoming a top flight professional fighter, these are the types of fights they got to be taking an amateur. But in MMA, all too often, they chasing that, you know, pro debut. You know, it's not like boxing either. A pro debut in MMA is anything from £250 on upwards, you know, for a purse. So
yeah.
I don't see there's a real... It's not like you're having a life-changing moment where you're going to get a few £1,000 a fight. So for me, how Jack says this well when he does interviews, where he says, chase the dream. Don't chase the glory, the money. Chase the dream. What's your focus? Are you looking to become a world champion? Are you looking to become a top-tier UFC? Are you looking to become a world boxing champion? If you focus on that, everything else comes together. The money, the fame, you know, the nice cars, the nice houses. Don't chase the money. I think sometimes that's why people are a little bit too quick. They want to be on the TV. They want to be the big name in the lights, you know. And I think there's probably a lot of boys, particularly from this area in Wales, that have not fulfilled their potential in that respect because they've not done it the right way. You probably see it all the time as a boxing coach and a manager.
Well, I see it all the time as a boxing coach. I mean, what you've said there is a very interesting point. I mean, this is the first thing I say to someone who approaches me and doesn't really know a lot about the pro game. I said, if you're looking to make money, then you're in the wrong sport. Yeah. You know, and regardless of what people believe, I think people believe we're all millionaires. You know, and it's just crazy. There's no money in boxing unless you get to a certain level. Yeah. Just the same as MMA, Shay.
Same as MMA, buddy. Yeah.
Same. So, you know, it's like I say, these journeymen that are boxing twice a month or 3 times a month and losing every time, but you know they're tough. They go the distance. You know, they lose on points to a prospect who's 8 or 9-0, and then they're in the ring again 2 weeks later, earning their 1,200, 1,500 quid. A guy like that will earn far more money than a nearly man. A guy that boxes for the British title but loses and then makes a comeback and boxes for an intercontinental title. Yeah. Even though he gets a big payday in those title fights, it's a long time in between fights because obviously journeymen are boxing a lot more often. So. There's no money in boxing unless you get to a certain level, and you know, as a manager, that's the main thing I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the best out of the person, put them in the right fights, and try and earn them as much money as they can earn before retiring and hopefully taking some of it with them. What
year was your first pro fight?
My first pro fight was 1996.
How much you get paid for the first pro fight?
At £1,000.
£1,000, yeah.
So that wasn't bad.
That's not bad. I mean, even in, you know, today's climate, you know, unless you come in with a reputation from another art, or you know, you'd be hard pressed to get that as a debut in MMA. Full stop. You know, and in boxing probably in today's day and age, I'm guessing. Yeah. So you've moved from Pontypool. You've had a brilliant amateur career. You've decided to turn pro.
Yeah.
Did you have to change gyms because it's in boxing? I believe the amateur gyms can't also coach professional fighters. Is that correct?
Well, that's the way that it was at the time. Yeah. So, but in saying that and not being disrespectful to anybody, you know, Tony, my amateur coach, was that. He was an amateur coach. So, you know, I turned pro with John Hyland, who at the time had a TV deal with ITV. Yeah. So turned pro with John Hyland, ended up going up to Liverpool to train with kind of the house trainers for the John Hyland fighters, really.
Okay, stop where you got. Was you travelling up there, or was you going up there to stay during the week?
I'd be up there staying. I'd be staying from Monday to Friday, coming home on the weekend and going back for sort of 6 weeks. Great experience up there. Met a lot of great people. I'm a Liverpool supporter, as you know, Shay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a Liverpool supporter anyway, so got to go to a lot of the games, and it was just a brilliant time up there. And I spent I think I spent about 6 or 7 years up there. I had a couple of injury problems, so my career was stop-start until I had about my 8th fight, and then I was all
Who was the actual coach up there?
Colin Moorcroft. So Colin had Andy Ayling, Peter Culshaw, Shane Neary. He trained some good big Liverpool names over the years, you know, and he was a good trainer, Colin. I was with Colin until my 16th fight.
So when you say you was Italy 16, what, did you come back to Wales to train full time then, or?
No, I mean, I had in my 16th fight was it was the Yuri Sorengo fight. It was on the Calzaghe Brewer undercard, and basically been travelling back and forth. I was really struggling to make the 11 stone limit, and of course, then you know it's a science now, Sheikh, isn't it? You know,
yeah, of course it is.
You know, the hot baths, the saunas, and you know, toweling them down, covering them over, back in the sauna, cutting your weight, doing the water at the end, and then even before that, then the proper diet over the weeks. Just 20 years ago, I know it's only 20 years, but it just wasn't like that then. You know yourself. I mean, the way. I mean, I don't know how you used to do the weight, but I just used to do it the old-fashioned way. You know, it's kind of starving yourself and cutting off your fluids for weeks and weeks and weeks. Only drinking when you were really, really, really thirsty. And you know, if I'd have known then what I know now, geez, you know, I would have made things so much easier for myself. But so I lost that Yuri Sorengo fight, and I mean, I'm never one to make excuses, but I mean, I punched his head in for about 6 rounds, but then I think I fractured two of the metacarpals in my right hand, and I sprained my wrist in my left hand. And then I have some really bad facial injuries. And I was knackered after about 6 or 7 rounds, I think, because of the weight as well. But look, you know, it was my own fault. You know, I didn't do things properly. I didn't have the right nutrition, and I ended up suffering the consequences. And you know, after that, I did make my comeback with my old coach, but he was training a couple of fighters at the time, and one of the fighters, he was able to get accommodation over in the Canary Islands. So Colin was going across with him to do his training camp, and of course I was stuck on my own. So I spoke to Frank Warren, and Frank Warren found out about it. He said, look, you need to find a coach for yourself. Why don't you try Brian Hughes over in Manchester? So you know, Brian Hughes at the time, he had Robin Reed, Anthony Farnell, Michael Gomez, later on Scott Quigg, lots and lots and lots of, you know, very, very good fighters. Went over to Brian, really got on with the guys in the gym, and I had 16. I think I had about 10 to 12 fights with Brian. Then I won the WBU title under Brian. Had some good wins, won over Ryan Rhodes as well. And that I was with Brian until the last 3 fights of my career when I came back home.
You know, one of the questions was your WBU title. Yeah. Was that a world title, Gar? For those that don't follow boxing?
Well, this is something that is always up for debate on.
It's World Boxing Union title, isn't it? I believe
it's no more now. It's because the president died. But back in the day, for me, you know, first and foremost, I'll say that I earned good money through it. Yeah. You know, if I'd have boxed for the British title, because I boxed for the British title eliminator not long beforehand. Now, if I'd have boxed for the British title, it would have been, let's say, 15 grand. Okay. I got offered the WBU title shot, and it was double that money. Yeah. You know, so I was a kid trying to earn as much money as I could. Yeah. So I took the WBU. But was it a world title? I never considered myself to be a world champion. To me, it was a stepping stone, because obviously, like Enzo Macronelli, he was WBU champion. Ricky Hatton won the WBU title as well. Yeah. So there was lots of good names that won the WBU title that went on to win proper world titles. You know, when I say proper world titles, I'm talking WBC, WBO, WBA, IBF. Yeah.
They are the 4 main ones, aren't they? Yeah.
That's right. So, you know, looking back on my career now, you know, obviously I wish that I won a prestigious title, like a British title or a Commonwealth title, EBU title. But at the time, you make the decision, you know, go with the money at the time. And, you know, I had some good wins with the WBU. And, you know, do I have any regrets? Not really. But the only regrets is that, you know, I wish that I could, you know, look back and say I won the British title, or I won the EBU title. But it's by the by, isn't it? You know, I earned some good money for WBU and beat some good
at the end of the day, yeah, you know, you're a professional fighter. It's professional. Your job is to earn as much money as possible in the sport. You know.
Of course.
So, you know, I'm guessing you was married then as well at the time, yeah.
I was married. Not at first. I got married. I got married in 2007. I had to think then. She'd kill me. No, 2007. So I won the WBU title in 2006. I got married in 2007. So,
but were you with your wife then at the time?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. You know, you've got to look at. You know, somebody said, "Well, come and fight for a British title for X, but you can get YZ for the WBU." As a professional, you're going to follow the money. You know, that's. You know. You've got to put food on the table, pay the mortgage, and all these things. As we said, you know, it's about getting the best living you can and getting out the sport with all your faculties in part as well.
That's funnily enough, that the very two sentences you said there and what we've just been talking about. I mean, we're on a group on Facebook, the ex-boxers group, and there's a guy on there, or he isn't on there anymore. He got took off there last week. Someone was talking about one of the guys I previously mentioned up in Liverpool, Peter Calzaghe. Now, he won the WBU and he won the WBF. Now, he had some good wins, some really tough wins for those title fights. Now, he was getting 25, 30, 35 grand for them title fights, you know. And someone put up, it was like profile, Peter Calzaghe. He won the Commonwealth title, he won the WBF, he won the WBU, and he beat this and he beat that. And the guy went, yeah, but they're worthless. Now, it's an ex-boxers group where you're all supposed to be on the same side. There's not supposed to be any trolls. I don't think he was being a troll. I think he was just being a bit direct.
Yeah.
But anyway, he got into a, you know, I put something on there. I just said, look, I said, it's all very well them being mean in this, but Peter beat some very good names in those title fights. He earned some good money, and they were big fights at the time in Liverpool, in good venues in Liverpool, because I was on the undercards. So, you know, I don't see that they're meaningless. You know, how many WBU or WBF titles have you won? I said.
Yeah.
So there was so many people hitting him at the time. He just got took off the group because it was deemed as being disrespectful, because the replies he was giving people were disrespectful. And, you know, in a way, they were meaningless. But I just think that, you know, when you win these titles and when you're earning good money from them,
and a lot of work gone into it as well. A lot of work sacrificed to get to that moment, isn't it?
Well, of course. I mean, whether it would have been a WBC title fight or a WBU title fight, my preparation probably wouldn't have changed. It would have been the same, because at the end of the day, you're training for the opponent that you're going to fight, aren't you? So
yeah. So going back to your pro career, you a lot of your career was in Manchester, Liverpool, away from your home. What was the reason? Was there no quality professional clubs around at the time, or they were, but there was nobody your weight? What was your reasons for that? You know, because just curious, because at the moment, you know, I would have said 10 years ago in Wales it was the same. If you wanted to excel in MMA, you had to travel around to get the quality coaching, to get the quality sparring. Whereas now we've got a real hotbed at the moment. But what was the reasons for that?
Well, when I first turned pro in 1996, obviously I turned pro with John Hyland. He was a Liverpool-based promoter, and they had a good team of fighters up there. So I ended up just going away to train. He said try a couple of the trainers up there. And I guess that's just the way it went. There was no reason for not turning pro in Wales. But then when you think back, you know, we get overlooked a lot of the time. It must be the same in MMA as well, Rich, you know. And you know, we're an afterthought, you know. So
I think we're very unfashionable is a word.
We're very unfashionable. I mean, look, if there's a British title fight and someone needs an opponent, and there's a Welsh guy and there's a guy from London, the guy from London's always going to get that chop before the Welsh guy. And now people might go, "Oh, you're talking a load of rubbish." Well, I'm not talking a load of rubbish, because I've seen it time and time again over the years. You know, London fighters, Manchester fighters. You know, it's not a dig at them. It's just the way it is.
Well, it is.
They're always more fashionable than what the Welsh fighters or Scottish fighters are. Maybe fighters from the southwest as well. You know, down in Bristol and the southwest. Then at the moment, I think, you know, Newcastle up there, around that area, that's struggling. There's a couple of small hall promoters up there, but I think it's only recently now, like Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren have started going up there. But I think there was a big lull for a long time up there. Norwich, that area, big lull there. You know, where the big promoters don't go there. So, you know, there's unfashionable areas everywhere. You know, it's not just Wales or Scotland.
Yeah.
Areas in England as well. All I'm saying is that the London fighters, they always seem to be top of the list, don't they?
Well, you know, thankfully we've turned the corner in Wales. We've got some real high-profile lads now, which have led the way. We've had numerous world champions in different organisations. 4 boys in the UFC. You know, we got Liu Long in Bellator, fighting at the highest possible point of their careers now. But I agree, and I always used to say in interviews years ago that with Forgotten Nation, you know, I think a lot of my fighters would have had a UFC call a lot sooner if they were fighting out of a high-class gym in London or Manchester, if I'm honest with you. Yeah. Same with the Swansea lads, Brett and John Phillips. I think they'd have had the call a lot sooner if they'd been at a much more fashionable or high-profile gym. But I think thanks to Cage Warriors in particular have invested into Wales, and, you know, through the social media side of it, you know, they've made stars out of Marshman, Brett, our Jack, you know what. If you'd said to me 6-7 years ago we'd have had a Welsh fighter sell out the Ice Arena for an MMA event, I would have laughed at you. But you know, through the right fights, the right promoting, the right exposure, we managed to get there. So fingers crossed we have turned the corner with that respect. But for way too many years, I felt like John Phillips and Marshman in particular, they could have been signed way before they actually did. Their records and their knockout ratio, if they had been at any high-profile gym in the UK apart from my little gym up in Blaenau, I believe they would have been set up. So we spoke about your reasons of, you know, that's just how it fell due to the promoter treat. You came back. You just said a bit earlier. You came back to Wales then for your last 2 fights. Yeah. Where did you train when you came back?
Approached Enzo Calzaghe.
Yeah.
And I went there for the last 3 fights of my career.
Yeah. So you know, probably the link with Enzo and Joe made that gym for quite a period. You know, because you had quite a few high-profile guys there yourself. Enzo Macrelli was training out of there. Gavin Rees. Probably at that point was probably the most high-profile gym in Wales. Would it be fair to say that? Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. I mean, if not Britain, because obviously, you know, he went on to have 3 world champions there. Obviously, Joe's world champion for a long time, and then when I got there, Enzo had just won the WBO as well.
Yeah.
And, Gavin then went on to win the WBA title against Suleiman Mbaye not long after. So it was a brilliant gym at the time. 3 world champions, that's unheard of. Yeah.
Did you enjoy your time there?
Yeah, I enjoyed parts of it, but I think, you know, I'd fallen out of love with boxing, you know, a long time before that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I lost that 1 fight, and then I had a couple of injury problems, and then I had a couple of problems with my promoter and whatnot, things not going the way that I thought they should have. And then I started buying a few properties outside of boxing then. So I saw that I could earn money in different ways as well.
Yeah.
So I sort of felt I didn't hate boxing, but I fell out in love with it a little bit. Don't think I was committed as what I should have been, you know.
Yeah. And that happens, Gar, when you're doing something like you are from the age of 8 years of age. There's a lot of sacrifice, lots of, you know, nights in when your friends are out partying as a young man, you know, the fitness. Your mates are going out when you're in school and you've had to go down to the gym with the old man because you've got a fight coming up, you know, and people don't, you know, unless you're involved in the sports, whether it be MMA, people don't see the side of it. They just see the bright lights and, oh, there's Garry Lockett on the TV, you know, he's living the life. And you're not living the life. I say to everybody, it's a hell of a tough life. Don't get me wrong, the financial roads and everything else, but the sacrifices that a fighter like yourself or a top level MMA fighter have got to do to get to where they need to be, people don't see that.
You've got to love it, Rich. You know, you've got to love it, and I don't think I ever loved it. You know, I liked it, and I had a lot of success because of my power. You know, I boxed for the undisputed world titles. I got very far. I think if I could have taken that when I turned pro. You know, if someone said that, I would have taken it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, given so many things went wrong, I got myself out of many scrapes with my power.
Yeah.
You know, killed myself to make weight, or perhaps, you know, wasn't as dedicated as I could have been, as I previously mentioned with my diet, and end up losing 2 or 3 rounds, and then bang, fight's all over. You know, got yourself out of jail with with your power. And I always had that get out of jail card with my power. So even though you know, I boxed for the world titles, it's quite disappointing that maybe I never won a legitimate one for myself.
Who's the best coach you actually trained under?
You know, listen, they were all good in their own way. You know, they're all very good in their own way. But you know, I just have to go back to my old amateur coach. As I'm not just talking about the best coach. I'm just talking about who taught me about everything. You know, he disciplined me in life outside of the ring, and he showed me most of the things that I know inside the ring. And he kept my feet on the ground more than, you know, because I think at one point I won something like 28 on the trot with 27 knockouts, I think it was. And, you know, I could have been shouting from the rooftops. I could have been the loudest man in the room, but he never let
Tony, yeah?
Yeah, Tony never let me be the loudest man in the room. I always had to keep my feet on the ground. But having said that, you know, my dad always made sure of that as well. So as much as Tony was, you know, not just a coach to me, but he was a good friend to me as well, I also had the stability of having a solid set of parents as well to keep my feet on the ground. So they have as much credit. Tony has as much credit as my parents. You know, not quite as much as my parents, but I'm just turning my phone on the side because I need to put it on charge, Rich.
Oh, really?
Right. But so yeah, you know, in answer to your question, I think I've gone a long way around it. The coach I got, you know, I'd have to go back to Tony Williams, but all the coaches I had, you know, Colin Moorcroft, Brian Hughes, and Enzo Calzaghe, God rest his soul. Obviously, very, very fantastic coaches in their own right. And, you know, Enzo, 3 world champions in the gym at the same time. That just speaks volumes, doesn't it?
In a small little valley town like Newbridge as well, you know, training out of a shed pretty much, wasn't it? The old the old shed outside the rugby ground down there, you know.
At first. And then they went to the old Newbridge Rugby Club, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the old Newbridge Rugby Club then, wasn't it? They were down there.
Cumcan, was it?
Cumcan, sorry, yeah, Cumcan. Yeah. It's quite a nice facility. We went down there about 2 years ago. I put a couple of my young lads into one of Joe's boys run a charity boxing event, and we went down and, you know, just for the kids to see the gym really, and it's a nice little facility down there. They got the ring, all the bags, all the memorabilia there, which is nice for the youngsters were a little bit you know, in awe when they were looking around and having a look. It's a nice little place.
Absolutely fantastic, yeah. Because obviously, I know you think of all the fantastic fights that they all trained for in there, and the legacy that Joe has left, you know, is absolutely massive. With
talking about coaches, like people say to me, you know, who's the best coach in the world? And I don't think you can pick the best coach, guy. And you know, I speak you like myself. You've got a lot of fighters. You've been doing it a long time. I say to everybody, there's a best coach for you. Now, what might tick all my boxes and somebody that might get me motivated might have the opposite effect on somebody that I've trained with all my life because their personalities don't fit as well, you know. So I'm a great believer, you know, there's not one person you can go, this coach would be a coach of world champions, no matter who goes there, because sometimes the fit isn't always there, isn't it? Would you say that's fair in boxing as well? You know, you found that with your experience over the years?
I just think you have to find the best coach for you, don't you? And you know, one size doesn't fit all. I mean, I think I fit most I've got a general, very good understanding of boxing and the way to deal with people. But you know, sometimes you get a personality that comes in and you just don't quite click. You don't quite get on with each other. And it doesn't matter how good a coach you are or how much that guy learns off you. If he doesn't like you or like your attitude, then he isn't going to take anything in. I've had that on 2 occasions where they thought they were right and they were wrong. And it's just the way it is. You know, one size doesn't fit all.
No,
perhaps I don't like someone that comes in. Perhaps they're in trouble all the time. Perhaps they got a bad attitude. Perhaps they treat their parents with disrespect.
Yeah.
Anything like that, I'm not going to like. You know, so I like nice, respectful kids, and I can say that 95% of the fighters that I've ever trained have all been respectful kids, nice, respectful kids.
And you know, you're cut from the same cloth as me, guy. You're pretty old school, your morals and all the rest of it. But for me, I say this to everybody, it's just as important for me what type of man we make, not just the fighter, what type of person they are, the way they carry themselves, the way they are in public, the way they are, as you said, how do they speak to their parents, how are they with their wife, you know. For me, it's as important for me to create these young lads and turn them into decent men as it is, you know, which would you prefer? Do you want a world champion who's a complete arse, or do you want a good clubman who's a really good bloke? I'll take the clubman who's a really good bloke and is willing to give you 100% every day of the week, you know. And people sometimes call me and I go, oh, shut up, you take the world champion. No, I wouldn't take the world champion because I don't think we'd get to that point, because I'd be kicked out of the gym by that point if their attitude was poor.
No, that's an interesting point. It's about what you believe. And the old school in me wouldn't put up with that, you know. Yeah. And this, I don't like all this shouting your mouth off and calling people out, calling people effing and blinding and CUNT, and I don't like all that. I like people to be respectful, because I just think if you're nice and you're respectful, people will like you. And then if you do get beat, you know, the worst thing in the world for me, you know, someone goes mouthing off and pushing people's faces and bloody, you know, causing a ruckus in every single press conference, and then they get beat. And what do they look like then?
Yeah, you know, you're setting yourself up for a fall, you know. And
we used to see it with Naseem, didn't we? Naseem he used to get away with it so often, didn't he?
Eubank Senior was another one, wasn't it? You know, the crowd loved to hate them, you know, and they'd sell. I remember Naseem coming to Cardiff to fight Steve Robinson. I had front row tickets. Me and a friend of mine, Terry Evans, went down. And you could genuinely feel the hatred towards him. I don't know if he was he on that card? Did he fight down there for that?
That was before my time.
They brought him out on like this, like a cherry picker crane. He came out and he's dancing. And honestly, there was bottles whizzing past his head. There was racist chants going off.
Well, it would have been at that time, or the racist abuse at that time would have been unbelievable, wouldn't it?
And he's gone in. He's just boxed sublimely, and you know, he smashed Steve Robinson, you know, and Steve was a good world champion, but you know, he just did what he did. But good God, you know, the hatred towards him. But I'm looking around and the place is sold out.
Yeah,
absolutely, definitely. You know. So I get it. But
look, perhaps I'm a fossil. Perhaps we're fossils. Perhaps that is the way to do it. You know, and you know, shouting at people and calling people names and stuff like that. You know, are we fossils when we say that's not the way to do it?
Or you can look at the opposite way. You look in boxing terms, you know, you've never seen Joe Calzaghe stood there shouting from the rooftops today, you know, being our Jack has made a real name for himself, and he's probably one of the, you coach him, guy, and you know him as well as anyone. He's as humble and as quiet a kid as, but he's the most determined fighter I've ever coached, you know. But I don't think there is a need for it. I think if it's natural, like for example, Conor McGregor, you know, Floyd Mayweather, they're naturals. You watch them, same as Naseem back in the day, and as much as you dislike it or whatever, you're fixated with it, you know, and it creates an interest with you. But you see so many fighters today. I've seen Conor McGregor become a multi-millionaire star, and Floyd Mayweather, and think, I'm going to follow that path. It's not natural. And the general public are not daft. They know when they're watching somebody talk, whether, I give an example, young Oban has started training with you from my gym, right? He's got the gift of the gab. He reels it, but it's so flawless with him. So it'll work for him. But if I try to take some of his terminology, give it to our Jack, it just would not be, it would feel fake. You know what I'm saying? It's
well, it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Rich, doesn't it? About, you know, when one coach doesn't fit all, you have to treat these guys like they're individuals, and by trying to take something away from someone, then perhaps you're going to affect their game, aren't you? So, but with Oban, I don't think it's nasty. It's kind of a sarcastic,
it's tongue-in-cheek, trail-selling banter more than anything, you know, and he gets attention from it. But he's very good at what he does, Oban. You know, he can sell. I mean, he's 3-0, and he's as well known as anybody in that division. You know, if you said to anybody in the UK, name me 5 lightweights out the Cage Warriors roster, they would name him every time.
Yeah.
You know, and his guys in there would probably, you know, 5-6 times the amount of fights that wouldn't get a mention. So he's, you know, and he's unbeaten. So he's doing something right.
Yeah.
Couple of questions coming in. who is the best fighter you've trained with or sparred with? Who's the best fighter you've trained as a fighter, not as a coach? Now we'll come on to that in a bit. When you were a fighter, who was the best that you trained with?
Well, just easily Joe Calzaghe.
Joe Calzaghe, yeah.
I mean, Joe was the type of guy. I could hold my own with most that I sparred with.
Yeah.
He was the type of guy you just had to get in there and look after yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's the highest compliment you can pay anybody. You
know? What was so good about Joe? Guy, you know, he was up close and training. You know, what was it?
Everything. I mean, you know, he was an elite fighter, number one.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would have been like that against any elite fighter. You know, just looking after myself.
Yeah.
You can't really hope to go with your own game plan and have success. You just have to wait for the shots and look after yourself. I think everything about him is jab and his reaction time. You know, he'd be jabbing, he'd be waiting for you to come back with your own jab, and then as soon as you jab or throw a shot, he has you with one or two.
Yeah.
And his footwork was very good. His work rate was brilliant. People say that he couldn't punch and that he slapped. Well, at times, I think it looked like he was slapping, but by the time the punch got to the target, obviously he was hitting with his knuckles. He obviously wasn't slapping. I think when he had bad hands, I think he started trying to protect his hands by throwing a lot of shots. I think a lot of the time, people said it looked like slaps, but Jesus, look what he did. You know, there's an old saying where he did to Jeff Lacey. He must have slapped him 1,100 times in 12 rounds. So, and they certainly didn't feel like slaps when I sparred him. You know, and you know, he was probably the best fighter that's ever come out of Wales, and definitely the best British fighter of our generation.
Yeah. I say this to everybody. I feel he's the best, particularly from our generation. You know. In as much he was undefeated, you know, and he got a bit of criticism, didn't he, early on about not taking fights in the States, but he was selling out, you know, stadiums, you know, in Wales and in, you know, around the UK. And for me, he fought everyone they put in front of him. I mean, and done a number on everybody, you know. I think, you know, there's an argument that the greatest British fighter of all time, even, couldn't he? You know, he could be put into that bracket. Yeah,
and of course, you know, how many retired unbeaten?
Yeah,
you know, there's very few retired unbeaten, especially I think he was 47 now, wasn't he? And I think 20 odd title defenses, and then the last two fights of his career, he beat Hopkins, who went on to win titles at light heavy, and
Hopkins has continued probably for 10 years after, isn't he? You know, he's continued.
Exactly. And Roy Jones was past his best, but wasn't quite shot, and obviously dropped Joe in the first round as well, and. And I remember I was commentating for BBC Radio Wales in Madison Square Garden when he went down. I'm like, oh my God! But he managed. He got up and bossed the rest of the fight, didn't he? But you know, two very good career victories against two massive names at the end of his career. So you know, he finished off really good. And as I say, you know, in my mind, he's the best British fighter of our generation.
I got a story about Joe Calzaghe. When I was 16, I went to Crosskeys College, and Joe was there for a couple of weeks when the term started. You know, don't know why he was down there because he. So I remember sitting down at the table. He was doing a course with a friend of mine, and I'm not going to stay. He says I'm the hottest prospect in British boxing. He was like 16-year-old kid then. You know, I go, yeah, all right. So he's going on about this boxing. Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I didn't think a lot of it at the time. And I remember saying it was a PE teacher there called Di Reese. I don't remember Di Reese. He's a rugby player for Newbridge, outside fullback, I think. He was good level rugby player. And I'm going, Joe boy, I said, he's going to be the hottest prospect in boxing. I said, he hasn't stopped talking. He goes, oh, he's full of shit. He said, take no notice of it. and then about a year later, I went to, you remember the Starlets nightclub in Usk?
Yeah.
The Starlets,
Yeah.
I went there to a boxing duel, and I think he was just like finishing off his, and he just absolutely schooled this lad in an amateur boxing bout, and then he turned pro. So Diary said that one wrong, but yeah, I remember sitting there thinking, oh, he sounds like he's full of shit. But how wrong we were.
Was that Wales against Ireland?
I went to a couple there, to be honest, guys. So this is my memory of what it was. But like yourself, you know, been knocked about a few times. But it was in the Stardust nightclub in Savas nightclub. It was called.
We used to have boxing bills there all the time. Amateur boxing bills there all the time. You know, and it was good memories from that place.
Right. To finish off on your fighting career before we talk about your coaching. Interesting me, like doing a bit of research on your title fight. You lost to Pavlik, wasn't it? But your words after, and you've already touched on it, was I've never been a lover of boxing. You said in the interview after, you know, when you retired. So was that just like an accumulation of all the years of sacrifice? You come to this point thinking, as you said earlier, I'm just not enjoying this sport no more, and I'm going to walk away while I'm still got my faculties in place. I've got a cracking record. I've got a good reputation. I'm going to leave while I'm on top.
Yeah, I think so. All the years of just getting let down, I suppose, in different things, title fights being promised, not materialising, training your ass off for nothing, you know, for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then things fall through. You just have enough of it. You know, some people carry on going, but just have enough of it. And I just thought after that, just go and do something else. You know, I had a small property portfolio, so I thought I'd, you know, go into that. And then just moving on a little bit, it wasn't long after that I started coaching and found that I really enjoyed it.
What led you to, you know, what led to that point? What it was always in the back of your mind as a fighter you'd like to do some coaching?
No, not really. As I say, I was gonna start developing my property portfolio, and which I did. Hit a few problems, but I had a Ricky Owen from Swansea. He approached me and asked me would I help him out. So I started helping him out, and it just went from there really. And then I had a couple of other fighters approach me, and then a year later Gavin Rees approached me as well. So to be honest, you know, Gavin was the guy that really gave me the platform to show a little bit what I could do. And you know, you might agree with me, Rich. You know, once you've got a championship fighter in the gym, then other fighters start flocking to the gym.
Agree.
You know, and I think that's the way it is in boxing gyms all around Britain.
Yeah. What with talking to Gav, you know, but you were also a key, I think, turning point in turning his career around as well. Going back to finding that right coach for you, and I think when he did partner up with you, you know, whenever I speak to Gav, he's got nothing but praise for you as a coach, and I think he found that right mix. He found somebody. I think Gaz, one of these, does need a little bit of a disciplinarian looking after him as well. He can be a little bit wild on times, can't he? And maybe lack a bit of motivation sometimes. Whereas I think you're the type of guy, you've got your standards and you don't let it slip regardless of who you are. Would that be fair to say? Yeah,
I think that's fair to say. But let's not forget, you know, Gavin was a world champion before he came to me. You know, and you know, he'd been with Enzo from the age of, again, similar to me, from the age of 8. You know, so Enzo, he won everything with Enzo.
Was Gav with you for Prize Fighter or with Enzo? Was he with?
No, he was with Enzo with Prize Fighter.
And
then he fancied a change then after Prize Fighter, and asked me. I phoned Enzo basically to run it past him, and Enzo said, "Yeah, that's fine."
Yeah.
So you know, we had some good times together, myself and Gav, and obviously we're still good mates now. 11 fights together, and he won the British and the European titles as well, and fought Adrian Broner in America for the WBC title. Yeah,
I remember that. What so you started coaching. Where were you based out of, Gav, when you started?
Based in Pontyclean, little gym in Pontyclean.
Pontyclean, yeah. How many pros have you got training with you at the moment?
At the moment, I think about 6 or 7 at the moment. But I manage a few more than that. A couple of the boys I train, they are managed by a mate of mine in London that we work closely together. But I manage a few of the guys I train as well. Plus, I manage a couple of guys that other people train.
Yeah. So how long have you been coaching?
So since 2009 now.
So 11th year now then, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
11th year. So obviously, probably, would you say Gav's probably the most high profile?
Well, Gavin, yeah, he was high profile. Obviously Enzo Macronelli as well.
Oh, Enzo, yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I listened to a podcast with Enzo last week, funny enough, or about a week before, and he said he'd like to have one last hurrah, you know, one more fight, and he'd like it to be in Swansea. And they touched on where, and he said, "Oh, there'd only be one person. It would be Garry. Would be." He said, "I know enough to do my own bits, but a couple of times a week I'd be done with Garry, and Garry would be my head coach for the camp." So, have you spoken to him any more on that? Is that something that's still a possibility once this madness is all finished?
Well, we had a conversation about it a couple of times. You know, I think there's a lot of bad press when it comes to people saying, you know, he shouldn't be having it. It was 50th fight, or he shouldn't be having this. He's not looking for a run. He's just looking for one. He
said
fight.
This, yeah. He said it because he's fit. He had 50 amateur fights as well, didn't he? So he said this would round it off to 100 fights career-wise and 50 and 50. And you know, Enzo is one of the most loved boxers, I think, in Wales. You know, he's a character outside of the. You know, I love watching him on Twitter. I could read his tweets all day. You know, he enjoys a bit of the banter and the trolling, doesn't he? But he's one of these guys, you know, who's fought at the top level, being a world champion. And I'd love to see, you know, why not? Why not give him one final hurrah in Swansea in front of his own people and give him that fight?
Well, this is the thing, and we've been in discussions, and I think it would have probably happened this summer if it had not been for this pandemic. But you know, it's as I keep saying to people, he's not looking for a run.
Yeah,
we just established that he's looking just to have his 50th fight, and then
he said that'll be one and done. He said on this podcast.
Yeah, right. So Gavin, Enzo Mac, then obviously Liam Williams.
Yeah.
Just thinking of the champions. I have 4 British champions. Nick Blackwell as well. He's champion with me. Chris Jenkins, who was absolutely mad as a box of frogs, and listen, you need him in the gym all the time. He just makes everyone laugh so much, you know.
Yeah. And, I think he's your version of Chris Edwards, from what Jack have said.
Oh, he's probably more mad than him, definitely. But then look, you know, got a lot of good kids coming through as well. And he's, you know, always laughing and joking in the gym. You know, everybody says I don't smile. Well, the boys can't understand that because we're always taking a mickey and messing about.
I've been in your company lots and lots of times, and we have a great laugh, don't we? You know, we've had a few trips together and whatnot. But do you mind if I touch on the Nick Black? Well, obviously, tough time for you as a coach. You know, after the fight with Eubank, and I remember watching an interview with you. I can't remember if I watched or I read an interview, and you had said, like, this has been the toughest few weeks of my life, you know, and you were thinking about walking away from the sport at the time. Nick's obviously, you know, doing well now. I've seen him. He's not boxing again, but, you know, he's fit and well guy, yeah?
Yeah, well, obviously that first episode with Eubank Jr., there was obviously a second episode then, wasn't there, where he went back to training. I mean, and it actually happened. It happened about 4 days before all the boys were fighting, and I kept it away from the boys. But what he'd done, see, Nick loved. He was one of these kids. He loved boxing. He lived for boxing. He couldn't imagine life without boxing. So after the Eubank fight, he made a full recovery. He used to come up to our gym once, maybe twice a week. You know, training. You know, we go for something to eat then after training, just mix in with the boys. He loved mixing with the boys. But at no point does a man with a brain injury ever spar. So I can remember that the one morning, I can remember texting him. It was about 8:30. It was before I dropped my son to school. And I said, "You coming up today?" "Yeah, I'll be up. I'll see you at 11:30. Now, in the time then that I took my son to school and I was on the way to the gym, he phoned me. He said, "Oh, I can't come today. I forgot. I've got to view a property." So I put 2 and 2 together. He's had a phone call for sparring. Agreed to go and spar in this gym down in Devizes, down by Whitchurch. Not Whitchurch, Trowbridge in And so he's gone down there and sparred and gone over and ended up twice as bad as what it was the first time. So unfortunately, he didn't make a 100% recovery. He's in good health. Don't get me wrong. But and he's happy. He's got a girlfriend now, and she's got a son. So he's really happy at the moment. And it's just a shame he did what he did that second time going and sparring. Which to you and me, that would, and to the general public, it would seem idiotic. But I just think Nick just loved it that much. He just couldn't stand to be away from it.
Sometimes you've got to save fighters from themselves, you know. Hence why he probably never mentioned to you that he was going sparring, because he'd have had a strip tour off him, I'm guessing, that as well, you know. But yeah, sometimes you know, you see it a lot, don't you? Where, not just in fighting, professional sportsmen, footballers, boxers, snooker players, even, you know, where they finish their career and they're lost. There's a big void, isn't there? There's a void, you know.
Struggle to know what
they end up depressed, turn into drink, turn into drugs. There's so many stories that you can reel off, you know, about famous sportsmen that have had it all, and then bang, that void is there. And for Nick, it probably come a bit prematurely due to the injury with the fight, and then obviously, you know, not being sensible and going sparring. But I'm glad he's doing all right, and he's happy enough. Yeah, does he keep in contact with you, Gar?
Yeah, we're in contact. Yeah, definitely.
Tough moment for you as a coach, well, because I've been there sometimes, and you think, oh, is it worth it, you know? But then the positives always far outweigh any sort of negatives that come into our sports, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, some of the nights that I've had, you know, they probably eclipse my most successful nights as a boxer.
But you take just as much from it.
But in a different way, if you understand. I mean, you know, obviously your own nights are very personal to you. But some of these nights, like when Chris Jenkins won the British title, you know, I could have screamed from the rooftops. You know, I was just so proud, and you know, he'd had so many opportunities and so much bad luck, and nothing going his way. And he was going to pack it in about 3 months before, and I managed to convince him just to keep giving it. I said, we'll get an opportunity, and then we managed to get this opportunity against Johnny Garton for the British welterweight title. And it was a weight above what he fought. You know, he normally fought at 10 stone. This was at 10.7, and he had a good camp, and he won. He won well. And you know, nights like that, nights like Enzo when he beat Roy Jones over in. I know it was obviously, you know, it was a Roy Jones who was well past his best. It wasn't the victory; it was just the trip that we had. Sometimes you go on a trip; it's just such a good trip. But the fight tops it all off. You know, again, Nick Blackwell beating John Ryder. Jay Harris beat Paddy Barnes in Belfast, and then even when he lost in Texas, going back a couple of months ago, you know, he came out of the fight because nobody gave him a chance to do anything. He came out of the fight and everybody going, Jesus, this kid is really, really good, you know. So even in defeat, he gained, you know. So, you know, there's so many fantastic nights, and too many to mention.
As you said there, you lost, but gained. So sometimes the performance can outweigh the result, can't it? You know, I've had that a few times where I've had a lot more phone calls and tweets and messages on Facebook about a fighter that's lost a bout, but has put in a real good performance, a real solid dogged performance against somebody who's gone in and blitzed somebody in a round or two, you know. So, you know, there's always positives. There's always learning to be pulled out of the defeats.
Yeah, I think so. It was another one we had. I can remember Dale Evans. He was another one in the position like Chris was really. But Dale was never with a big promoter. He's always having to sell loads of tickets to get on bills and given short notice fights. And he had a chance against Sam Egginton. Now, he'd beaten Sam Egginton a couple of years before in Prize Fighter. But since then, Sam Egginton had really shot to the stars, won the British title. But we had 10 days notice, and Dale wasn't fit. So, you know, we just pushed him. I think he had 1 10-round spar, a couple of other spars, but we managed to get him to the fight fit, made weight just about. And he dropped Sam in the second round, and then he died a death. But then it looked like I was going to pull him out in the 11th, but then I gave him the opportunity. He went out in the 12th, and and he shook Sam and hurt him. So it turned out to be the right decision. But
yeah,
you know, for someone who only had 10 days notice against a very good champion like St Eglinton, he came out of it with a positive. So you get those situations, I think, quite regular, don't you, in our sport?
Definitely, mate. One question that was sent across on the social media was, which is it a fighter? And I hate using the term that for you has been like the biggest waste of talent you've ever come out. But you know, somebody who had the potential and the natural ability to have gone as far as they wanted, but never actually followed it through, or never had that commitment to training. And you know, who for you in your career that you've seen as somebody that it's a bad term, but the biggest waste of talent then?
I think there's been there's been a few. And when I'm asked on the spot like this, a lot of the time I struggle to think. But I mean, the one for me is a kid that I had a few years ago, a kid called Lewis Reese. Now, obviously, I was with Liam Williams for 7.5 years. Lewis Reese was a little bit older than Liam, but they were in the GB squad together.
Yeah.
And they both boxed for Rondre ABC in Pen-y-Graig. Lewis was a beautiful boxer. He was really, really good. But he didn't want it. He didn't want to box. I think Lewis was boxing for his dad. You know, his dad really loved boxing.
Yeah.
And Lewis was very good. He was very good in every department. And he won 9 straight. But he was always cheating on the weight, you know. Always cheating on the weight. And Enzo Mack boxed Jürgen Bremer out in Germany, and I had Liam and Lewis on the undercard. So Liam all week was, you know, drinking his water, having his 3 meals. Lewis was just starving himself all week because he'd basically been cheating on the diet.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he won that night, Lewis, but they gave it a draw. So then Frank Warren's lot, they give him another chance after that. And they put him against a journeyman, quite a famous journeyman actually, called William Warburton, a very tough man. And when I said what weight, the matchmaker said it's an on-the-day weigh-in, 10 stone 12. So when he said it's an on-the-day weigh-in, it's kind of, you know, when you just know.
Yeah.
I just know. I knew because on an on-the-day weigh-in, you can't cheat.
No.
If you kill yourself to make that weight, you ain't gonna have nothing left in the fight. So he ended up losing in that. He lost on points, and then he packed it in. And Lewis is, I don't know what he's doing. He's working now. Obviously, he's massive now, Lewis. But
where's he from? Where's he from?
He's from up in the Rhondda.
Rhondda. Yeah, I thought it was when he said it.
Yeah. Area. But he's happy. You know, he's working in a. I don't know what he's doing. I think furniture removal or something like that. But he's happy. And, you know, I'm glad for him.
As you said, sometimes they're in it, but you can't. Give me an average fighter with a real strong mindset against a naturally talented athlete with a very weak mindset. Because the grafter and the hard mindset is always going to overcome. It balances out, you know, because it's not just about the 12 3-minute rounds in boxing or the 3 5-minute rounds in MMA. It's about turning up 2-3 times a day to your training. To when that bar of chocolate is calling your name in the fridge, you've got to leave it there. When all your mates are popping down to the pub to have a couple of pints on a beautiful sunny afternoon, and you've got to say, "No, I'm not coming." It's not for everyone. And as you said, I think that feeds back to the people I think that are the most successful are the guys who really love their sport, because it's what they want to do, you know, and you can't coach that into them. That's either in them or it's not.
Well, if you've got that, you know, if you've got that talent, you know, that top talent, and you've got the dedication to go with it, then there's no doubt about it. You're going to become a champion. Yeah. It's as simple as that. And it's, you know, it's the guys. Isn't it just sad that the most talented guys, most of them, they haven't got that dedication.
Yeah. And I've had guys come in the gym, and as you said, so many I could name, and I've gone, do you know, this is the one. This is the next guy I'm going to get in the UFC. And they'll blitz it for like an 18-month, 2-year period. They're flat out training, dieting. Then all of a sudden it just seems to fall, and you're thinking, what's happening? Why? and they just fall by the wayside. I've been seeing that for the last 12 years since I've been coaching. It's something you can't make them want to do. They've got to want to do it for themselves more than anything. You can encourage and you can be on their case. You can be disciplining them, but they've got to want to do that themselves. And if they've not got that in their mindset, we're going to struggle. Yeah, I agree completely. Right. Well, obviously, the last few years you've been involved a bit more in the MMA scene, haven't you? You've Aaron Khalid, Liu Long does some training with you. Jack trains with you. What's your thought when you've been to some of these main MMA events, particularly the Cage Warriors ones? How do they? What's the difference between like the crowd atmosphere, the running of it to the current boxing shows that you're at? Is it a big gulf between them? What differences do you see? And I don't mean about the actual sport itself, just about the running of the event. The basic the running the event is more organised. For MMA or boxing? MMA. MMA, yeah. Yeah, more organised. There's more of a crowd in the MMA. Yeah. What advantage you got in the MMA is that see the kids on the undercard. Yeah. The kids on the undercard, they don't necessarily have to sell tickets to get paid, do they? No. They can't get a flat rate. Yeah. However, I've got a kid called Meredith Thomas who 4 times has fought and hasn't earned a penny. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Basically because the whole of your purse and your opponent's purse has to come out of your ticket sales. So if you don't shift tickets, you don't get nothing. Well, it's a little bit different as well in boxing, Rich, because in MMA there's no journeyman. Everyone's come to win. Yeah. Whereas in the boxing, you can't just put a new pro in the ring with someone who's 4-0. Because you're probably going to get beat. So there's a lot of journeymen around. You have to put them against this journeyman. That journeyman's going to get paid. He's got to get paid because he's not turning up to win. He's turning up really to look after himself and try and go the distance. Yeah. So that opponent, 4-round fight is going to be £1,200, right? So whatever's left after that £1,200 of tickets, say there's £1,000 left, you go £500 each with the promoter. If the promoter's an half-decent guy. Yeah. Otherwise, they could take more. Yeah. So, a lot of the time, Meredith sold just enough to pay for the opponent. Yeah, and then didn't make nothing. And then I remember the ones, I think he sold £1,215 of tickets. He had £15 left, and he come and put it in my bank because I hadn't been paid for about 3 fights from him. So that meant as much to me as in giving me a grand. Of course it does. It did, because it goes to show that he wasn't a selfish mean bugger. I think what we are lucky with the MMA is that we can put a strong undercard on with amateur fighters, which they don't do in the boxing. Yeah. So that obviously helps with ticket sales. I mean, particularly when we do the big shows in the ice arena, if you're an up and coming amateur, we got amateurs down there. They'll sell you a couple of 100 tickets because it's a big deal for them. I'm on a Cage Warriors event. The main card's televised. I get to say I've been on the same card as Jack Shaw, or Brett Johns, or Jack. It's a big deal for them. But I think boxing could learn a bit from that as well, about giving the amateurs a little bit of exposure, fighting under those bright lights. This is why I enjoy putting my amateurs on the big shows, because they get used to fighting in that arena. It's not alien to them when they step up to pro as well. They've had that good experience with it. Yeah. You've obviously had your debut in the UFC recently as well with Jack. How was that experience when you was out there? Well, it's funny really, because Jack likes me to work the corner. You probably know better than me why he does, because I feel like a spare prick sometimes, because I don't understand when it went on. Not at all, mate. We wouldn't have it any other way. We wouldn't have it. That's it. But I mean, out of all the fights that I've ever worked in a corner with you, the actual UFC fight is the only one where I had any advice to give, and it turned out being some pretty good advice. I don't know if he took it in or not. Well, I think he did. I thought his boxing looked on point against an opponent who came in there with stand-up fighter as an elite level stand-up fighter as well. And I thought he won every strike in exchange. He got a little bit carried away, and there's a lovely highlight video. There's the mini doc they done on us where they followed us, and stop brawling, stop trading. You see shouting. I think I learned F-bomb go as well, didn't I? My wife said to me, why are you the one that gets caught swearing at everybody? Listen, there's no one's language is worse than mine, yours and Parker's off camera, is it? When the 3 of us are together, there's some choice language, but when it's time to be professional, as you said earlier, I think it is important how you carry yourself, because you're being an example for the youngsters as well, isn't you? Do you know what I mean? You want them coming through and having the right habits.
Yeah, I think so. I think, there's nobody, when we're in the gym and when we're having a laugh, I don't think there's anybody that swears more than myself. Well, there's Chris Jenkins and a couple of the other boys. But no, I think you've got to act like a professional, haven't you? I'm old school. I just believe you go to certain events, you have to dress a certain way.
Yeah.
You work on TV, you have to dress a certain way, you have to act a certain way. If you're in the corner on TV, a lot of the time, you swear, but I try not to swear in the corner.
Yeah. Well, at the Cage Warriors events, it's the one thing Graham always touches on. You're on mainstream television. It's quite early. Please try and avoid using the bad language, because I got to deal with the TV company, and I try and respect that whenever we can. What's your, you've cornered and you've fought on some of the bigger events in boxing. How did that UFC match up with professionalism and the way they run an event?
I just think that it's. I said to you at the time, didn't I? I think the running of it, the organisation, is absolutely second to none.
Yeah, you look boxing.
Yeah, I think boxing could take. I think boxing could take a note of it, to be honest, because what I said. With the wrapping of the hands, you had 5 or 6 guys running around.
Yeah.
Doing the wrapping of the hands. Whereas in boxing, you have your own guy do it, and then there's people sort of coming in and trying to inspect it, and people arguing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas there was no arguments. It was all calm. There was 5 or 6 guys running around wrapping, but then there seemed to be 3 or 4 guys running around doing one job. Whereas in the boxing, there's like 3 or 4 guys running around trying to do 6 jobs.
What they do well, they invest into making sure the experience for the fighters and the coaches is as painless as possible, painless as it comes. Right, couple of quick fire questions to wrap us up. Yeah. Who from your gym should we be looking out for?
From my gym?
From your gym.
We've got Rhys Edwards, is very, very good. He's from the Ron. He comes from the same gym as Liam Williams and Lewis Reese that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Kid could be anything he likes, right?
That's handy, yeah.
He does let his mind wander. He doesn't always turn up to training. He's a bit of a grubber. He loves eating. So you see where we're going with this, don't you?
Yeah.
We've just been talking about it.
Yeah.
This kid can be anything he wants, really. If he listens to me and he dedicates himself for the next 10 years, he can definitely be a world champion. And then I've got a load of kids coming through, 5 or 6 other kids coming through. Nathan Thorley is going to be fighting for the Commonwealth, the Commonwealth Cruiserweight title soon.
Yeah.
I've got Meredith Thomas. And I've got a load of other kids coming through. So too many to mention. But those are the ones I've just thought about off the top of my head. So sorry if I've left anybody out.
Oh. If you could fight anybody in history, past or present, who would it be and why?
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Reasons?
Sugar Ray Leonard, I think, is the man that I look up to most as a fighter. I'm not really... never asked for an autograph. I don't really look up to people. Yeah. I'm not that way. But if I saw Sugar Ray, I'd probably ask for a photo with him, definitely. Yeah. The way that he carried himself, his overall ability and his respect for an opponent.
Yeah.
I really like that. And I think that I can remember the first fight my dad, when I was boxing when I was about 10, the first fight my dad said, right, we're going to watch this fight tonight. And in those days, obviously the fight was in Vegas, so it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. But ITV used to show it the next night, about 7 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah.
And he said, there's a champion called Marvin Hagler, right? He said, he's supposed to be the greatest ever. He said, but you watch what Sugar Ray Leonard does to him, right? So we watched the fight, and Sugar Ray Leonard beat him on points. And I've had the debate with, I don't know how many people, saying that Hagler won. Listen,
yeah.
Hagler, as good as he was strong, and he was a brawler, and he had no flair. But he had no flair. Whereas Sugar Ray Leonard, I think he outflared him that night. And I thought he won it. And you couldn't have given the decision to Hagler because of the way that Leonard boxed. Yeah. So that's the
reason. And so he's obviously something you looked at. Do you know where I watched Hagler against Sugar Ray Leonard?
Go on.
On a big screen in the Savage nightclub.
In the Savage, yeah, okay.
Yeah. early hours in the morning. We went over. Right, just tell everybody where your gym is, you know, and a little bit about your gym, and we'll call it a day, guys. So where are you based at the moment?
Based down in Llanrumney, Phoenix Amateur Boxing Club at the moment. I'm there. I'm there in the mornings until the afternoons. The boxers train 11:30 for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Obviously, if they've got if some of them got 12 rounders, then I have to stagger the training, bring them in on their own to give them the one-on-one time. Yeah. For a lot of the time, they train as a team, as your guys do.
Yeah.
You know, sort of pair them off or put them in threes, and they train as a team at the moment. So, really good gym we've got down there. Always laughing and joking. Everybody's always welcome. Cup of tea is only £2 as well, so anybody that wants to come down for a review.
as well.
But, people are always welcome to come down and watch the training as well. So
brilliant. So, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, Garry, on social media, have you got a Twitter account or anything like that?
I know I'm on Twitter. The Lockett Man on Twitter.
Yeah.
Instagram, the Lockett Man, and then Facebook as myself. So anybody that wants to get in touch, obviously I still do private sessions as well.
Yeah. So, they can message you for personal.
A little plug for myself there.
Yeah. So if anybody interested in having a one-to-one with you, they can get in touch with you via Twitter or Facebook.
Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Gaffers. I think this is the longest one I've done so far. I'm looking at about an hour and 20 we've been going for. So I told you we put the world to rights tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully when this madness is over, I'll be done with our Jack Buddy, and I will catch you very soon.
Definitely.
Right?
See you soon.
Thanks, Gaff.
Ta-ra.